What about nuts?
You mean us or the ones you eat? The only two nuts we don't like people to eat are cashews and peanuts. All the other nuts are good, and talk about science, almost every month they come out with great reasons to eat nuts.
And also just qualify if you're talking about raw, roasted, salted, what form do they have to be in?
Raw. Yeah, obviously raw. And nuts really fills you up. They're chewy, they are really great food, great protein, great minerals, and essential fats, of course, and they fill you up, and they give you good nourishment, so they're a great snack. Instead of a chocolate bar, you get a handful of nuts.
What I tell people about nuts, again, general population coming into our place, 2/3 of the people are overweight or obese, and so we have to have adequate calorie density, and that's why the inclusion of grains and starches. But you also have to deal with too much calorie density in the diet when people show up. So when we get the oils out of the diet, and when we relegate foods like avocados and nuts and those types of things to when they appear in a dish. Okay, so if I go get a black bean wrap at a restaurant and it has some avocado in it, that's great. But when I buy a bag full of avocados and I go home and I start putting them in my food, when I buy a bag of cashews or a bag of almonds, let's take a nut we would all agree on is okay, a bag of almonds, and I'm taking a handful of almonds. It's very difficult for people to stay lean and keep their fat intake down when they're eating almonds, and so if again prescriptive communication, use these in dishes. Don't put your hand in the bag, and eat hands full of them. And some of you know Chef Ajay's story. Hung on to the eating nuts, said nuts are healthy. I eat nuts every day. She carried 35 extra pounds, gave up the nuts. The weight and finally, Dr. Lyle at True North is the one who said, AJ, you got a math problem. Okay, let me show you the calorie density of those nuts that you're eating every day, and as soon as they came out of the diet, you've seen if you can go online tonight, look up Chef AJ, look at the before and after pictures, they're all over the internet, and the only thing she changed was the nuts.
Okay, there is an abundance. First of all, a nut comes naturally in a big package that's really hard to get at. And so if you really think about how much nuts we're supposed to consume, it takes a lot of work to get to one nut. We never had bags of nuts where you could just literally do this. And I know personally, I've worked with AJ a lot over the years, watched this whole evolution occur, and she says it's because she's addicted to nuts and she couldn't stop. Now, the overwhelming evidence in the data shows that nuts are health promoting. They decrease risk for type 2 diabetes, for heart disease, for obesity. But all of those studies, the consensus seems to be between 1 to 2 ounces or 30 to 60 grams a day, which is a small dose. And again, if you were cracking that open, that would be easy to do. But AJ and other people find themselves as way too easy. You have those nuts out, my kids too. It's an easy mouth to hand, but very nutritionally dense. They have wonderful things like phytosterols and vitamin E and all these wonderful nutrients that we need, and we could get almost exclusively some of them from nuts and seeds. So I do recommend them. I think they're wonderful. Moderation, but really 1 to 2 tablespoons, 1 to 2 ounces a day is the optimal in the research.
All right, so peanuts aren't really a nut, right? They're a legume. And they have higher saturated fat. Walnuts are much higher in omega-3s, so I like that. There was a study done. Now, okay, back to biases, because everything is freaking biased. But the study was funded by the almond company. And so take it with a grain of almond. But they gave people 500 extra calories a day of almonds. And then they looked at their weight. They didn't gain weight. And I don't know why. 500 extra calories, you would think they would. But, okay, that aside, they didn't gain weight. But I worry in my patients because my patients are Chef AJ, and there's a guy named Josh LaJohn. You guys should meet Josh. Josh was 450 pounds. Now he is one of the top ultra marathoners, and he's really thin, and I went running with him. And this girl we know makes these nut bars, and they're totally organic, and she just binds the nuts together, and it's basically you're just eating nuts in a bar. And I said, God, these are so good, you should try one. He said, I'm not gonna even try it. And I was like, why? He's like, I just know I can't say no. And so you got to know yourself. If you know you can't say no and you're going to overeat it, and I know because I love pistachios. I mean, I go crazy over pistachios, but you have to freaking work like crazy, like she was saying, to get those pistachios. Now they've got pistachios in a bag where you just scoop it up. I do think calorie density probably will eventually play a role, but I do think nuts are extremely healthy. You just gotta know who you are. Are you an ectomorphic body that can eat anything and not get fat? Great. If you're struggling to lose weight, be careful. Although I do tell my patients to eat nuts.
Well, apparently, like the fiber in there helps it not, all of the calories are not absorbed. So there's a lot of reasons metabolically that they don't, they are still calorically dense, of course, and it depends on who you are.
Now we know the pistachios are loaded with glutathione, and I never knew I liked them so much, but it must be your body's crying out for them.
For glutathione. And glutathione, boy, glutathione's a powerful thing for hypertension and stuff, so, yeah.
And in the United States, due to the Kodak's international ruling, they're now irradiating most of the nuts. So if you see raw nuts that are American, most likely it's a lie. I saw Whole Food was lying on that until recently, and somebody busted them. And so for about 3 to 5 years now, most of the nuts in America, American nuts sold in America. We can ship raw nuts to Canada and everywhere else, but our raw nuts from California, which I have a bias, they are the best in the world. California almonds are just delicious. You either have to get them underground, or as we have to at the Institute, get them from Italy sometimes, ironically.
Are you just talking about almonds? The other nuts are
Almonds,
not
see, the
irradiated?
other ones they haven't messed with yet.
Okay. Yeah, when I go to Whole Foods, they say raw, unpasteurized almonds. So I think those are the ones that are still raw. Or they say Italian almonds, which means, okay.